what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's enjoying their Memorial Day. Hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy. This is episode 3 of Ear to the Canvas. I'm your host, Ryan Truland. I just had my morning coffee. I'm raring to go. I'm excited to get into episode 3. I know last episode I teased an interview coming up. The interview will be dropping Friday, and it's with Eric Nolan. He's the number 1 amateur welterweight in New Jersey right now. He's got a 4-0 record. Very impressive. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm very excited. I also can't wait to drop the interview that's coming next Monday. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is, but it's with a guy who is 1-0 right now in the UFC. He is out of New Jersey, and I can't wait to get to talk to him. That'll be coming early next week. Now, for Ears of the Canvas, you can find us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, and when you do, hit the alarm so you get a notification when a new episode drops. Also, hit the like button if you enjoy what you hear. Now, a lot of stuff has been going on in the UFC. There wasn't any fights this past weekend, but there was a lot of news. A lot of drama, too. The UFC is in it's very entertaining right now. A lot of characters in the UFC. So, a lot of big fights were announced. I'm not going to get too much into them. I'm not going to go over every one. We'll get into that as they get closer. But, the big 3. First, Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker is coming. That is supposed to be happening on June 27th. It's going to be a main event for a fight night. That is a hell of a main event for a fight night. Poirier has not fought since losing the interim lightweight belt to Khabib. He has not fought since then. Hooker's last fight was a split decision win over Paul Felder. It was a crazy fight. Paul Felder is a tough guy, and Hooker hung in there for all 5 rounds. That was a crazy fight. I can't wait for this one. First thoughts. Again, I'm not going to delve too much into it right now. I'll get into it as we get closer to the event. But Dustin Poirier is a better striker. He's more technical. I think he has a power advantage. However, Dan Hooker is tough. He can clearly go 5 rounds. He's also very long and unorthodox. He's pretty tough to prepare against. But Poirier's been in there with the best. And I think he's going to be motivated. Can't wait for that fight. Second big fight that was announced. This one's very interesting. Pedro Munoz versus Frankie Edgar. Now this is going to be at bantamweight. This is going to be Frankie's first trip down to bantamweight. He's fought at lightweight. He had the lightweight belt. At 155, he had the lightweight belt. He lost it to Ben Henderson. That was a while ago. Then he dropped down to featherweight. Did pretty well. 8-4 record. Beat guys like, he beat Charles Oliveira, which is very tough to do. He beat Yair Rodriguez. He lost to, you guys remember who he lost to. His last fight was the loss to Korean Zombie. He got put out pretty early. But there's no doubt Frankie's going to be extra motivated to make what might be his last real run at a title. And this time it's going to be all the way down at bantamweight. Very interesting. Against Pedro Munoz, who's no slouch. He's ranked 7th at bantamweight. You guys might remember he had a firefight with Cody Garbrandt in his last time out. Knocked Cody out. clearly is willing to just trade, stand in the phone booth and trade. So this should be a great fight with him and Frankie. Can't wait for that. That's supposed to be happening. That's going to be happening. It's not confirmed yet, but July 11th is the date that they're shooting for this one. So June 27th, we got Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. July 11th, Pedro Munoz versus Frankie Edgar at bantamweight. Now the third fight that was announced, this one is not only interesting because it's a great fight, it's also a title fight. And it also has a few more implications than that. We'll get into that in a minute. Joseph Benavidez versus Deiveson Figueiredo. This is a rematch. If you guys remember, Figueiredo beat Benavidez a couple months back. Unfortunately, Figueiredo, that was for the vacant flyweight belt, but he couldn't take the flyweight belt home with him because he weighed in 2.5 pounds overweight. So the flyweight belt remains vacant, and they will be running it back. Hopefully both of them can make weight, and we can have a flyweight champion on July 19th. This fight is happening July 18th. If you guys remember the first fight, there was a headbutt. Benavidez got split open by a headbutt. I don't know. I think Figueiredo looked better anyway in that fight prior to the headbutt. But we'll see. We'll see. Again, we'll delve more into that as it gets closer. That's a little ways away. July 18th, that one's going to be. It's in the works. Now, the flyweight belt is vacant. If you guys noticed on UFC.com, the bantamweight belt is now officially vacant. Henry Cejudo has been taken off UFC.com. But I still don't buy his retirement. Henry Cejudo will be back in the UFC. Don't read into him being taken off of UFC.com as the nail in the coffin that he's done with the UFC. He's not. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So the bantamweight belt is vacant right now. What if he goes up to featherweight and fights Volkanovski? That would be wild. But we'll see. There's nothing really on that yet. Something else that happened over the weekend. I don't know if you guys saw this, but this guy's always entertaining inside and outside of the octagon. Mike Perry. Mike Perry announced that he is getting rid of all of his coaches. All of them. Mike Perry's lost 3 out of his last 4 fights. Could have something to do with it. He's a guy... Diego Sanchez tried the same approach, and we've seen how that has worked out for him. It's probably not the best approach. He says he's going to have his girlfriend, who's usually in his corner. It's just going to be her. Maybe one other guy, he said. But he's getting rid of his coaches. This is his quote. "I'm not listening to any coaches right now. Coaches who are saying things that they ain't going to do in there and do. I'm sorry. Coaches who are saying things that they ain't going to go in there and do. They want it to be this way or this way. And like it's a totally different way. I need a guy like me to hold mitts. I want to hold mitts for myself, to be honest with you. I can show people a couple of techniques or whatever, and I'm just ready to fight for my life. Ain't nobody gonna take this from me. All I need the corner for is to pass me the bottle of water," Perry said. "Wipe my head off or put the ice on my neck when I get hot coming in between rounds." It's probably not gonna go more than 5 minutes, and if it does, all I need is a bottle of water. I need to sip a drink, put some ice on my neck, and I don't need no advice. Well, he might be right about it not going 5 minutes. Might not. Yeah, he might be right about that. Mike Perry. It doesn't even matter that he's lost 3 out of his last 4. The UFC will put Mike Perry in the octagon until he can't walk anymore. Just because of how he fights, he's a very entertaining fighter. What did he say? However, coaching isn't necessarily all about for during the fight, though. It's for leading up to the fight. So Mike is going to be game planning himself for his next opponent. God knows if he's going to have training with him. Maybe nobody. Just interesting. Again, Diego Sanchez, you've seen his recent fights with that guy that he puts in his corner once he got rid of his real coaches. Now it's going to be Mike Perry and his girlfriend. Can't wait. Yeah, I don't know what that's going to be like. Mike is, I guess he's practicing extreme social distancing, cutting everybody out. But, alright, you guys may have seen this. Alright. So I don't know if everybody knows the guy, Ali Abdelaziz. He's the number one fight manager in the UFC by far. Just to give you guys a few examples of the guy that he manages, that he represents. I'll stop when I get tired, because the list goes on forever. Frankie Edgar, Khabib, Renzo Gracie, Henry Cejudo, Cody Garbrandt, Justin Gaethje, Kelvin Gastelum, Kamaru Usman, Derek Brunson, Rumble Johnson, Neiman Gracie, Zabit, the list goes on and on, Islam Makhachev. Some of the biggest fighters in the sport, champions. Corey Anderson, Marlon Moraes, Vicente Luque, Alir Latifi. Alright, I'll stop. You guys get the point. This guy is behind the scenes making a lot of things happen. Constantly. He's been doing it for years. Now, he sent this tweet out yesterday that got a lot of responses on Twitter, made a lot of headway. This is what it says. It looks like number one contender, aka Jorge Masvidal, wants to fight Nate Diaz now. Good for him, the notorious MMA Conor McGregor. Hey, you want a title shot? Come to daddy, Usman. We'll give you one, and he promised first 2 rounds without takedowns, only slaps. So in that tweet, he's saying that he's making a couple things known. That Jorge Masvidal apparently wants Nate Diaz. I guess they want to run back the BMF. I'm not really into that fight. I'd rather see Jorge fight Conor, or Usman, or Colby, before I see him rematch Nate. Kind of bummed out about that, but the second thing, he's on Twitter anyway, he's offering Kamaru Usman for the welterweight belt. Now, Usman has been waiting for a partner. Masvidal has made it known that he wants the money fight, which isn't necessarily for the welterweight belt. The money fight isn't necessarily Kamaru Usman. The money fight would be Conor. Hell, more people might watch him fight Colby. I don't think the money fight is BMF 2, but we'll see. So yeah, Conor versus Kamaru. Again, we don't know if this is actually going to happen. Very early stages of this. Dana has not said anything. However, if this fight were to happen, I think it's a rough fight for McGregor. I think it is a very tough fight for Conor. His recent stint at welterweight against Cowboy, we know how it went with the shoulder strikes. He put him out within the first minute, easy. But Cowboy clearly is nowhere near what Kamaru is, especially right now in his career. Kamaru is one of the most dominant champions in the UFC right now. Not because of what he's done, just I truly think that he's going to have that belt for a while. Which is saying a lot because the welterweight division, in my opinion, is the most fascinating division in the entire UFC right now. I know a lot of people will say, no, lightweight, no, featherweight, look at 1 through 15. I know. But look at the characters in the welterweight division, along with the talent, along with the mix of new and old blood. The welterweight division is beyond fascinating. You have a champion who is game both inside and outside the octagon. A champion who took out one of the best welterweights ever, Tyron Woodley, to take the belt in dominant fashion. A champion who defended his belt against a heated rival, broke his jaw, and finished him in the 5th. You have Tyron Woodley, who is ranked the number 1 contender. He's fighting Gilbert Burns. If Woodley wins that fight, I think he deserves a rematch with Usman. I do, especially if Masvidal wants to go elsewhere. Woodley, if he wins this Saturday, that fight against Burns is happening this Saturday. If he wins, he deserves a title shot rematch. He deserves a shot to get his belt back. And you got Colby Covington at number 2. You got Jorge Masvidal at 3. Leon Edwards at 4. You got Wonder Boy, who's at 5. Wonder Boy is a true wild card in this division. You don't hear a lot about him. I bet a lot of people would forget that he was ranked in the top 5 in this division. Wonder Boy is a guy who a lot of people avoid, and have avoided over the years. I'm interested to see who they match up against him next. You know who's a really interesting guy in this division? Michael Chiesa. Insane grappler. Insane. You got Nate Diaz at 10, RDA at 9, Jeff Neal, who's a huge up-and-comer, who might be a threat in that division pretty soon, at 11. Ruthless Robbie Lawler at 12. Vincente Luque, who just beat Nico Price. You've seen what Vincente can do. He's at 13. They got Conor at 14 right now. But you know Conor's going to be fighting one of the big guys, one of the big names, in no matter what division he's in. 14 doesn't mean anything. That would be funny, though, to see a title fight with a number 1 or a C next to Kamaru's name and a 14 next to Conor's name. That'll be something we haven't seen before. But as for people who deserve a shot against Usman before Conor, Jorge Masvidal is above him. Leon Edwards is above him. Colby Covington deserves a rematch before Conor deserves a shot. Woodley, if he wins Saturday, deserves a shot. That's 4 guys who deserve a welterweight title shot over Conor McGregor. Alright, let me just take a quick break to tell you guys about our sponsor, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's an app available to download on your computer, iPhone, or Android, and it's the easiest way to make a podcast. For starters, it's free. Everything's free on Anchor, and it gives you all kinds of tools that allow you to record and edit and create your very own podcast right from your computer or phone. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, man, how do I get my podcast out to the people? Well, Anchor even distributes your podcast on all the biggest platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. You can even profit from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Now, quickly, I want to run through what I believe the UFC should and will do with the most fascinating division, the welterweight division. I think Jorge Masvidal should face Colby Covington. Tell me you guys don't want to see that fight. That would be wild. Former teammates turned rivals. I think Woodley, with the win Saturday, should face Usman for the belt. Now, what if Burns wins? Then what? Then Conor makes more and more sense if Burns wins. If Masvidal doesn't want it. Because if Masvidal wants the title, don't get me wrong, he deserves to fight for the title. But it seems as though he does not want it. He wants another option right now. That's what it seems like. To me, anyway. Leon Edwards is there too at 4. Something tells me the UFC wants to give him another fight, make him earn another win before he gets a shot. So again, if Woodley wins Saturday, he deserves the next title shot against Usman. Usman versus Woodley 2. Then Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. McGregor has to go elsewhere at that point. McGregor, maybe Diaz, maybe Gaethje if Khabib doesn't fight, if God forbid something goes on with his dad and he needs to take time off. Maybe Tony. Go back down to lightweight if things fall this way. But regardless, I cannot wait to see what goes on in this division. Ton of characters, ton of great talent, new and old blood, newcomers and veterans, future UFC Hall of Famers. Cannot wait to see what goes on there. Now, I am very, very excited about the future of Ear to the Canvas. I just want to thank everybody who has tuned in to the first couple episodes. I hope you guys continue to listen. I promise that it only gets better from here. Like I said, interview dropping this Friday with Eric Nighttime Nolan, the #1 amateur welterweight in New Jersey. I also have other interviews coming up with some of the top amateur mixed martial artists on the East Coast. And like I said, the most exciting thing going on right now will be dropping early next week. Interview with a current UFC fighter. He made his UFC debut in 2020. Nothing but bright things ahead for that guy. And we will get to talk to him. You guys will hear it early next week. As for episode 3, Ear to the Canvas, I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. And as for me, I'm out.